The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Listen in as your host, Casey Colburn, brings together a perfectly picked panel of guests to discuss hot topics and events within the metaphysical and paranormal field. But don't worry, should the discussions get too heated, our studio's witch will sound her cackle to simmer the cauldron back down. Listen for new episodes of Cauldron Talk with Casey Colburn every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. only on Paranormal Buzz Radio. This is Season 1, Episode 10. Today we are talking about cryptids and elementals. I'm your host, Casey Colburn, and today we welcome to our circle Alex Bob and Jen Cruz. Welcome to Cauldron Talk. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
Before we begin, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Alex Bob, and basically I consider myself a Fortean investigator, covering a wide variety of different unknown phenomena. But my main subjects would be the paranormal and cryptids, and I have a YouTube channel, and we also put out a couple documentaries on Amazon Prime, and just do work like that. Lots of stuff around all around the country. So yeah, and some people might know me as Bigfoot Bob on YouTube or Spectral Wolfpack Paranormal, and those are my two YouTube channels where I upload just footage from my investigations. Yeah, I mean, I'm into all things, unknown, all different varieties, including like UFOs and extraterrestrials and just all kinds of different, just every kind of different strange phenomena, and even things like, cattle mutilation and spontaneous combustion and occult. But I like to I think there's definitely like a connection with a lot of this stuff, and I'm going to go into that a little bit too, when we start talking about the cryptids. So.
Well, my name is Jen Cruz. I'm team leader of the She Squatchers. We started the team in 2015 after I did an interview with Lauren Coleman. He's the cryptozoologist that we see all over TV on the interviews. He owns the Bigfoot Museum, or the International Cryptid Museum in Maine. And it was his idea to send women into the woods without men, dogs, or guns. And that's what he thought the recipe for success in interacting with Bigfoot. On top of that, at first I volunteered kind of jokingly in the beginning of the interview, but by the end of my interview with him, I seriously volunteered. I said, you know what, I'll give this a try. And I didn't believe in Bigfoot at the time, but, I grew up in the woods of Minnesota. I had never seen anything that would make me think that Bigfoot was out there. But he said enough interesting things to make me curious enough to go check it out. So that's how we started the team. I've worked as a missing person psychic medium and a remote viewer. So on top of his idea of sending women into the woods without men, dogs, or guns, I had my own ideas about using our extra senses to see if we could narrow that field a little bit further and help us to use our abilities to find Bigfoot even faster. So that was our experiment on top of the all-female Bigfoot experiment.
That's really, really cool. So my questions for you today are, the first one, what is cryptozoology and what is a cryptid?
Yeah, so cryptozoology to me is like the study or research or getting out in the field and trying to basically prove the existence of creatures that are said to possibly not exist. Some people might even lump in animals and creatures that are said to be extinct, even including things like dinosaurs. Also, some people would include mountain lions in areas where they're not supposed to be anymore. Basically like the study and research of things like that, but most importantly recognized for things like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, plesiosaur, lake monsters, sea monsters, things like that, Bigfoot, Sasquatch type creatures. And more recently, a lot of people have been getting into the dogman and werewolf type stuff, because there's actually been a lot of sightings of things like that. So that would be basically what cryptozoology is. And then a cryptid, the word, it comes from the word crypt, meaning hidden, crypto, meaning hidden. So it's basically like they call it a cryptid, basically something that might be hidden from plain view, something that people see, but it isn't considered to exist. So like Bigfoot, for instance, thousands of people see these things, but do they actually exist? That's for each individual person to decide for themselves right now. But yeah, that's basically what a cryptid is.
A cryptid is a creature, a living thing that has not been proven to exist yet, but is believed to exist. So it's basically a creature that is believed to exist in myth and legend, and people have sightings, but that has not scientifically been proven to exist yet. And cryptozoology is the study of those cryptids. People who go out looking and research and gather information in many different ways.
Yeah, see, I know that, with animals that we do know about, when their numbers dwindle down to past a certain number, we consider them extinct. And then you have, years later, we're like, oh, wow, they've reemerged in this area. It's probably a very similar thing that's happened there.
Yeah, and that can be like one of the popular ones like that would be like the Tasmanian tiger, which is the thylacine. Like, people have sightings of those, but it's considered to be extinct. And some people will lump things like that in with cryptozoology. Also, things like the Mothman, which could also be, some people might think it's like an extraterrestrial thing. Some people might think it's, a demonic thing. And there's all different kinds of theories and stuff, but some people will link stuff like that in with the cryptids. So yeah, you have all different kinds of little branches off of cryptozoology. Like, for instance, you'll have people who are into the flesh and blood side of things, meaning that they would consider these, like Bigfoot to be a flesh and blood creature, like any other animal, or like a human, just a flesh and blood creature. And then you have the people who might consider it to be something more supernatural, or the people who would consider it to be of extraterrestrial origin. And then I even sometimes like to speculate about it having something to do with like the fairy realm, which I can explain that a little bit too if you want. So
That's absolutely correct. It can include animals that are believed to be extinct that are showing back up. So when people start reporting these animals, the scientists don't believe them because they're officially extinct. So it's then classified as a cryptid.
So my next question is, how are cryptids different from elementals?
So with the elemental realm, you have a lot of it's hard to explain. I'm trying to think, like when I ran into things like that, at least when dealing with like mediums who pick up on it, they can appear as many different forms, but some people would consider creatures like Bigfoot to possibly be an elemental or like a protector of the forest, some type of forest spirit. Same with like I just call them fairies, but there's all different kinds of those as well. And I've actually had an experience where I saw them in the woods when I was camping one night. So, like, to me, they're very real and not something imaginary, just because of the experience I had. Basically, I was in my tent, and I was with my dog and another friend, and we had just gone out camping just for fun, and we saw these. My dog started barking, and we looked up and we saw these two blue strobing lights coming toward our tent through the woods, and it was flying super fast, like weaving in and out of the trees. And one of them came up and landed right next to the tent and kind of dimmed its light down. And I whispered at it. I was like, "There it is!" And it like darted off and flew through the woods, like really precise the way it flew and everything. And I actually saw that it had like translucent butterfly wings. And I could just see its like light blue strobing light, but I couldn't see what its body looked like or anything. So later on that night, 6 or 7 of these things came, and I remember my dog started barking again, and we both woke up and like looked out of the tent, and I just remember being in this weird state of like euphoria, and I see these things like hovering outside the tent. Now, I could lump this in with cryptids as well, because it's something that's, not supposed to exist, a type of folklore that I actually experienced firsthand, and then I've tried to do research to see if there's any type of insect, and I just couldn't find anything. Now, one thing about elementals that I've found, like from my investigations, is that when working with certain mediums, the elementals might like pick a certain place that they like to protect, and then things like that. So sometimes a lot of times I will bring offerings. Even when I just go on a simple Bigfoot investigation in the woods, I might bring an offering and leave offerings, just so that I'm on good terms with whatever might be there. And yeah, so I guess the difference would be depending on what the cryptids actually are. If the Bigfoots are flesh and blood, and if elementals are not, then that would be like a big difference, I guess. But it's hard to say because, I don't know for sure what either of these things actually are personally. So, until I have physical proof right in front of me.
Because I'm part Native American and I do honor those spiritual ways, usually I do come with tobacco offering when I'm entering the forest, and I introduce myself in the Ojibwe language in the old-fashioned way, and I ask the little people of the forest to protect us and to guide us, and to give us their blessing. So, as far as I understand elementals, they're more like bodies of energy, but they're sentient beings. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
But yet you can have a video of an elemental, they often appear as balls of fire, balls of light, and you can have video of them, but they're not necessarily, they can go right through physical matter. They fly right through them like there was nothing there.
Right. I think that was kind of my understanding of the differences too, which was basically one was physical and one was spiritual.
Yeah.
So for my next question, where can cryptids be found, specifically Bigfoot?
So, in my opinion, with Bigfoot, personally, I think that they can be found most anywhere where there is woods. And the reason I say that, you can see there's sightings all over. Like, if you just look at the United States, for instance, there's sightings, pretty much in every state. And you can find, like in Alabama where I live, there's sightings in like every county. So, I think that they could be seen anywhere where there's woods. For instance, the spot I was just talking about where I go investigate, it's only a couple miles away from a small city. And I honestly never thought that I would have any experiences there. But then I started going there for the cemetery there. And I started going further back into the woods because it's like a huge couple, like I think it's a couple 100 acres of woods behind that just goes on, and then eventually into some like industrial like places. But I started going back into the woods back there and just started noticing a lot of strange things, hearing strange vocalizations and like catching some. I actually caught this red eye shine on camera that whatever it's coming from has like a huge head, because whatever it is standing far enough back to where we can't make out an outline of its body, but its eyes are far enough apart to where you can tell, like, whatever it is, it has to be huge. And it's got these glowing red eyes. And people who see these things, a lot of times, people say that they have the red eye shine or glowing red eyes, or sometimes even green eyes. But, so yeah, I would say that, cryptids can be found in a lot of different places, but Bigfoot specifically in the woods. Of course you have the lake monsters and all kinds of big lakes. But one thing I'll touch on about the dinosaurs, like I said, in the Congo, there's several different dinosaurs. One of my favorites is the Mekele and Bimbe.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Which is like a long neck, like brontosaurus type dinosaur that the people who live there claim, like the villagers and stuff claim to see, and they'll draw pictures of them, and people go out there and investigate that as well. But so I mean, there's all over the world you have cryptids and legends about these things, and people having sightings and finding evidence as well, and so it's just really cool.
The United States of America has a lot of natural areas left, and a lot of people don't think that's true. But Minnesota alone, which is where I was born and raised, we have the land of 10,000 lakes. We have more lake shore frontage here than the entire United States, going around the whole shore. We have so much water frontage here that it's crazy, and lots of trees and forests, and that's all you need. You need water and you need forested areas. That provides some shelter, and that's what Bigfoot needs, those water and shelter. So I think that definitely I've found evidence of Bigfoot in Minnesota. I found evidence of Bigfoot in Tennessee, and in Virginia, and in Indiana, and the various places that I went looking in Ohio. There's definitely Bigfoot all in the natural areas, where there's plenty of forested area and water access.
Sometimes I wonder if there's like a time slip or something, because you'll even have people in the United States having pterodactyl sightings, and multiple people seeing these things, and thunderbirds, like giant birds, and so I don't really know. I still don't know what is going on. I just try to stay open-minded to all the possibilities, because it's just so mysterious.
I think that it's possible. I've thought about time slips or parallel universes, or some type of a portal that perhaps they appear and then they're gone again. And that could be something to do with the Loch Ness monster type thing too. It's really hard to say for sure. We're speculating and trying to make sense of these sightings. But I do believe that people believe that they see what they have reported. I believe that they do. As an intuitive person, some of us can tell when people are lying. You can feel it. It's not hey, maybe that electric fence is on, or maybe it's not. When you touch it, And when people are lying, you can sense that. And so people do believe what they're saying, or what they're reporting, what they saw. So whether or not they misinterpreted what they saw or whatnot, but remains to be seen. But I think enough people have reported the pterodactyls that it makes it a very interesting case that they're definitely being spotted.
Yeah.
It seems kind of rather new too, the pterodactyls in PA, that I've started hearing about it at least. So.
Yeah, and it's weird how that, like, the same with like the Dogman stuff. Like, there's been, legends of werewolves, and some people would call it the Lugaroo or the Rougarou, and there's, legends about all this stuff. But like more recently, like you said, there's been, maybe it's because of the internet, or maybe people are feeling more comfortable coming out about this stuff, but I don't know. I've been digging into a lot of old newspapers, And what I notice is, like, for instance, with the UFO phenomena, like, from, the early 1900s, you didn't have anything in the newspapers about that stuff. But in, like, the 50s and 60s and 70s, you can find stuff about that. So I don't know if they weren't around back then. I mean, you have legends of that kind of stuff.
There's probably just certain things that you just didn't talk about back then. So.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I'm sure there is stuff like that happening too. And I mean, you will find stuff about, like, they might have referred to a Bigfoot as like a wild man or things like that. And so, I mean, you do have stuff. It's just, like you said, they didn't talk about it much. I mean, what I've found in the newspapers, they'll talk about, like, the one that I've been researching, they talk a lot about, like, the Masons and the fraternal, like, groups, like the Odd Fellows and stuff. They'll have, like, just stuff about their meetings and stuff about cholera and other sicknesses and the president and stuff. So it's just, normal news, but I haven't found many strange things in those old newspapers. But that doesn't mean it's not out there, because there's definitely some reports from back then of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something to look at, and I'm with you there with being a healthy skeptic, but understanding that if they're coming out about it and there's so many people that there is definitely something that's to it. Maybe I don't know if the California condors are coming around and that's what people are seeing, because it would be kind of abnormal, but because of all the hurricane and weather storms and stuff that we're having, it's very much possible. And that would look prehistoric to certain people. And it is. The condor is 100% prehistoric. But so it's very interesting, and I try to, as you said, and as Alex has mentioned, being that open-minded, because I think that's only beneficial in this field.
Absolutely. We can't close our minds to the possibilities, because then what kind of research is that really if we're saying no? And there's lots of researchers out there that believe that Bigfoot is an undiscovered ape. And that's it. Flesh and blood ape, undiscovered. And when they experience something that is considered more on the woo side of things, they either completely reject it or they never mention it to anybody, because they've staked their whole reputation on the idea that this is a flesh and blood undiscovered ape. So I think that that's not being fair to themselves in their research to decide that this is not true without even knowing, if it's true or not. But I think it's the healthiest way to be open-minded, to not decide that you believe something or not without proof of it first, but don't close the door on it either.
Exactly. So what are some signs that Bigfoot is in the area?
So, signs that Bigfoot would be in the area. So for some people, like myself included, I like to look at what's going on with the trees around, because it can be kind of a controversial subject. Like, some people are totally against it, some people are totally for it, but like the tree structures. So, like, you'll find some really weird things in the woods, and what I like to do is just document it all. But the stuff that I find that's the weirdest will be a tree that has been bent into a giant arch and, like, anchored under something on the ground, and it almost looks like it would be like a doorway or something. And I have pictures of this stuff in my videos as well. Or finding things that are all, bent in together and like woven together almost with just like intricate designs that just, it's like, when I'm looking at this thing, I'm like, there's no way that this is just natural. Like, something made this. So I will find things like that. Now, can I say without a shadow of a doubt that that's Bigfoot? I can't. I don't know what made that, but it is associated with Bigfoot. You might also find footprints. Like, a lot of people will find, I've seen some really good ones that people have found. One of my friends, Ernest, he has one of the clearest, like, it's just obviously a giant bare foot, you know, and it's in the mud. And of course, you know, are people always honest about this stuff? I'd like to hope that they are. There are people out there that aren't, but like for me personally, I've seen some pretty convincing footprints myself too. So footprints, some people will find hair, things like that, but yeah, like the tree structures, footprints. One thing is the strange vocalizations. So like the area that I go in, one night I was out and I started hearing these strange like voices, and they were, and I have this on video, there were a lot of bugs out that night, so I can't make out what it's saying, but you'll hear this like deep voice and you'll hear these like high pitched squeals all together, and it's just really weird. Like what people, I was actually live streaming the whole camp, like I live streamed for 11 hours that night, and this happened around 11 o'clock at night, and after this it just got silent and we didn't really hear anything else the rest of the night. But everyone in the chat was saying that it sounded like some type of native language, and you know, the natives would use the trees to mark, you know, trails to water and things like that. So sometimes I wonder if the tree structures and things we find are just some type of marker or some type of, or, you know, you'll find the giant X's, trees put together into an X. So I don't, you know, once again, it's all speculation, like, but personally, I do think there is something to it. So that would be some signs to me personally.
People report hearing wood knocks and howls, you know, and those, you know, if you start hearing howls in the forest, by all means, get a recording of that, because there is science that can test that and can identify what's making that noise according to frequency. Certain animals come up as different frequencies and can be identified what's making that sound just based on the frequency. And there are frequencies of sound that we cannot physically hear with our human hearing, but machines can pick them up and can also identify. So, you know, always get a recording of that if you can, because that can be analyzed with devices, which is really an awesome thing. Another thing that we hear a lot of people complaining that Bigfoot is raiding their garden. And I've had native people ask me in Minnesota, what can we do? Bigfoot stole all my watermelons and, you know, all my tomatoes, and, you know, what can I do to keep them out of my garden? And I said, put up trail cams. They hate trail cams. Put up trail cams. They'll probably go away, you know. And another person had told me that she went out and said to Bigfoot, made an offering of tobacco and said to Bigfoot, I offer to share half with you, but please leave the other half for me. And that's what happened from then on. Bigfoot only took half, which was, I think, incredible.
Yeah.
My uncle, actually, he, out in Washington State, he has a cabin way up in the woods in Vancouver. And he'll see, like, trees completely just turned upside down.
Yep.
And he hears the knocking and just a bunch of random. He could talk for hours about what he's experienced, but
supposedly there is hair that has been tested and came back to be part human and part something else. Now I'm not sure, you know, with all this stuff, there's so many different like rumors that go around and theories and all kinds of stuff. I'm not sure about the truth to everything. Personally, I'm more of like a guy, I like to get out in the field myself and try to see what I can find.
Yes. Dr. Melba Ketchum did the Genome Project, where she was accepting hair samples and DNA samples from Bigfoot researchers. And they took in quite a few samples. And it wasn't just her working on this project. There was other scientists. They did a double-blind study. And I'm definitely not the expert that would know all the details of that. But what I do know is that there were multiple scientists that did the testing on these, and they double blind tested it, and the findings came back the same. that the mitochondrial DNA, which is passed on from mother to child without changing through the generations, came back as a human mother, and the father, the nuclear DNA, came back as an unknown previously classified creature. They didn't know what it was, which means it's not in the genome bank of DNA. It's not there yet. Now, these types of findings come back often when they're looking at some type of new creature that, a new creature that they found remains of in some cave somewhere. They find that it was a Neanderthal mixed with a nuclear Neanderthal mother with a undiscovered, previously unclassified male father. We don't know who this and what kind of creature this was, but there was a hybrid of some kind. These types of things come back all the time. But when they came back with this answer for, human mother back in the day with some previously unclassified father, that was, a lot of people rejected that idea. A lot of really sound scientific researchers rejected the idea because it said it had a human mother. It doesn't mean that it had a human mother yesterday or this particular creature had a human mother. It means way back in the day it started with a human mother. Now, when I look at that, and I consider that as a possibility, I do the pros and cons. Is this true? Could this be true? And should I believe this or should I not believe this? And what do the facts tell me? Okay, so the facts tell me that this was a double-blind study. Multiple scientists worked on this project and came up with the same concept. There were multiple samples. I think they did 111 samples. They came back showing the same thing. And when other people have sent in samples to be tested in other studies or other labs, they often come back saying, I'm sorry, your sample must have been contaminated because it came back as a human mother. Is it possible then, because most of the time when they check DNA samples, they're checking mitochondrial DNA, which only really looks at the mother's line. Is it possible then that it's not been contaminated, that it is from a human hybrid way back in the day? That comes up as a potential possibility to me, because that seems to make sense, that all these other samples couldn't have been contaminated every single time, right? So that could be a possible answer to that question. And it would make sense, since Bigfoot kind of does look like a cross between a human and an ape, right? Mm-hmm. So it could be some type of a human hybrid. There are different human hybrids. Humans bred with Neanderthal, with Cro-Magnon. We're descended from these things, so it's not out of the question that this happened. So I think it's a high possibility that that's true.
Yeah, I definitely, looking at the science part of it, like it does become a little bit harder to just dismiss. You will always have people that do just dismiss things just because it doesn't line up with what their particular opinions or beliefs are. But scientifically, like, I definitely could see that being a little bit more factual, especially if it's been repeated over and over.
Exactly. Now, I wasn't there. I wasn't part of the Genome Project, but from what I've heard about it and what I've read about it, that's the information that I got about it. And I encourage people to go out and look more into that themselves. DNA and DNA testing was something that I was interested in years before I started looking for Bigfoot. So I know a lot about mitochondrial DNA and nuclear DNA testing. So that stuff, was instantly, I was understanding that probably at a deeper level than most people do when I read it.
So I know that a lot of it is all just, working theories, but what all do we know about Bigfoot? It's kind of just like a collective.
Yeah, so like basically the idea, or what people would agree on, is that what people are seeing and what people believe Bigfoot is would be they can range. There's a pretty big height range, but generally, like, some people have seen them to be, 4 feet tall, all the way up to 12 feet tall, sometimes smaller, even taller. But basically like a hairy, like ape man, type creature with, big feet, because that's where it got its name. And I think the name I think it was in the 50s, like a newspaper reporter called it Bigfoot, and it kind of just stuck. And from that is what, that's what people call it. But, some people say that they smell really bad. I have caught some very strange smells come and go really fast in the woods. Like right after I heard some strange sounds or found a strange structure, I might smell this. Some people call them the skunk apes. So you might have this strange smell come up. Doesn't really smell like a skunk, or what I've smelled at least. It almost smelled like something dead, but then it would just go away really fast. So it was like it wasn't something dead right near me or anything. It was just like this weird scent comes up and then leaves. As far as like what everyone acknowledges, I mean, a lot of people think that they aren't real. I mean, I'll see people constantly on the internet kind of bashing Bigfoot, but like within the Bigfoot community, I would say, yeah, most people agree that it's a large, hairy ape man that is very elusive and tries to avoid being seen as much as possible. So other than that, I mean, we have different footprints and different things where they have like, the dermal ridges, and some people say that they have like conical type head, like a cone, almost like a cone head, similar to like a gorilla would, just where it kind of goes up and gets smaller at the top. Different fur, red, brown, even some black fur. The one that, whatever I saw, I can't say for sure if it was a Bigfoot because I didn't see its face or anything, but the one that I saw was had like a light brown fur. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, from different people are going to have different opinions, of course, because when it comes down to it, it's all about each person's personal experience right now with either these creatures or with what they've learned about them and what they believe about them, since it is still such a mystery. So I guess that would be my answer on that.
Well, we know that it appears to be an ape-like hominid in North America for sure. I think that there are different kinds of Bigfoot, or variances or adaptations of Bigfoot, because the skunk ape down in Florida seems to be a lot different than what we would have as the Minnesota Bigfoot. So I think that there's different kinds of different adaptations that are throughout here, just like there are different kinds of people, I guess. Maybe that's because of being in certain areas and the breeding that happens in those areas. That could be a possibility. But like the skunk ape in Florida apparently gives off this horrible scent that we have never encountered in Minnesota. We've never encountered a horrible scent when we've had a Bigfoot encounter. It's never smelled bad, ever. And so that's one thing that's an interesting idea, that some Bigfoot researchers believe that Bigfoot gives off a scent like a skunk to scare you away if he doesn't want you there. I mean, that's an idea that I hadn't considered until I heard it from somebody else. But we really don't know. We really don't know.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty fair. I mean, I think a lot too that we have to kind of take into consideration is if somebody is out searching and then they see it, there's going to be that shock moment, and then if it's gone within just a few couple of seconds, your brain's going to try to make sense of it, so what you actually remember might be a little bit distorted from what you actually saw.
Absolutely.
So that's always a thing to try to remember.
With that too, like you have, someone might have actually seen a bear or some other creature and just, like you said, their brain fires off and they are blown away, or they actually did see one of these things and it's something that's not supposed to be real, and your mind is just like blown. I mean, that's another reason why some people don't even, like, a lot of sightings go unreported. Some people are so, like, even afraid of what they saw that they don't want to tell anybody. I actually had a a Mothman type sighting in Prattville, Alabama, that my aunt told me about this kid who saw it, and he wouldn't even talk to me. He didn't want to talk to anyone about it. He told my aunt about it, and she tried to get him to tell me about it, but he didn't want to talk to anyone about it. He said it made him feel crazy, like what he saw. And so, you know, sometimes people will see these things and just keep it to themselves. Also, another strange thing, you'll have people see ones that have white fur, gray fur, you know, perhaps an old or albino one. So, I mean, there's just all kinds of different stuff you can find out there, and even different, like, facial structures and different, the way that they look. Some will run on all fours. Some will walk on, you know, bipedally on two legs. So just all kinds of different things that we would know about them.
Well, okay. So part of my job, I work with neuroscience techniques. So I know a lot about the brain and perception and awareness. So I'm going to tell you that the human brain works at 400 billion bytes per second. That's what's actually processing. That's not a potential. But the average human is only consciously aware of 2,000 bytes per second out of the 400 billion bytes that it's actually processing. So if you try to make a pie chart of that, which I have, it won't even accept 2,000 out of 400 billion bytes. It won't even accept it as a little tiny hair on a full pie chart because it's not enough. It's not enough to even show up as a little tiny hair. So that's how much conscious awareness that the average human has versus what all the information that they're actually aware of. So everybody is, in quotes, psychic. Everybody sees auras. Everybody knows what other people are thinking and feeling. Everybody is precognitive. It's just inside their subconscious awareness, and they're not consciously aware of it. So a person can shift their awareness to become aware of other things. Now, the human brain is used to seeing only a little bit, becoming aware of only a little bit of what that you're actually perceiving. So it's natural to see the things that you expect to see. Okay, so that's why we walk right by things that we didn't notice before. That's why when we get a new car and we don't think we've ever seen that car before, all of a sudden we get a new car and we see that same car, that same color everywhere on the road. You didn't start a trend the day you bought it. It's just you didn't notice that car before. But now that you have one, you're going to see that everywhere. So it's all about how we perceive and what we're conditioned to look for. So that's how a person can be in the woods their entire life and never see anything that leads them to believe that Bigfoot is there. But once they start looking for Bigfoot, looking for that evidence, and they can start seeing it because now they're focused on finding something very specific. And so you're looking for something new. Most of the time people are walking around too quick and not observing much at all. They're not taking in very much at all. And to be honest with you, a lot of people stop seeing the majority of the things that they used to see as children. A lot of adults don't even see lightning bugs anymore, even though they're still there. They don't even notice that they're there.
My brother actually, literally just the other day, he was driving, and he doesn't know if he saw like a 4-foot Sasquatch or if he saw a brown bear. He doesn't know what he saw. He just knows he saw something, and it happened so quick that his brain worked so fast that he didn't really comprehend what was happening, other than there was something that was brown and fuzzy on the side of the road.
Right.
And too big to be a beaver or anything else like that. So there, to him, he's like, I just saw a Sasquatch, because, of course, that's his side of the brain that's going to, where he's going to go to. It could also be that brown bear, although I don't know that we actually have brown bear in the area, so that would be a little bit more interesting. So I don't know what he saw because I wasn't there, but it's very interesting to kind of get into a little bit of that too.
Absolutely.
So in your experience, do you think that cryptids are dangerous?
So in my personal experiences, I haven't had any issues. I mean, there was one night I was camped out and something started breaking branches, big branches outside of my, it was across the way in the woods, but I was in my tent and I could hear it out there breaking branches. And then a tree actually fell near my tent, and then it got quiet for the rest of the night. So I don't know if this was like, I don't know if the tree falling was a coincidence or what, because I didn't hear anything come closer. I just heard the sticks breaking, like sounded like something snapping, like, you know, pretty big tree limbs, and then the tree falls over, and then it was just silent the rest of the night. So I don't know if it was trying to intimidate me or if it was something else happening out in the woods and then the tree just fell. Like, it's hard to say, but I just kind of stood my ground, stayed in my tent, and remained calm, and you know, nothing else happened. I have had rocks thrown at me, but it never like hit me. It just was thrown near me, and it would like bounce off the ground. I would see it fly toward me and just bounce off the ground behind me, and you know, and then of course like the vocalizations, but they never, like, the ones that I believe that I've interacted with have never like come very close to me to where I felt like I was in danger. Now, that being said, there have been stories about them, you know, going up and messing with people at their house, like banging on the windows or throwing rocks at the roof. And a lot of times I'll hear about like younger, like women and women in general having more issues with stuff like that. And then there has been stories of back in the day of creatures like this jumping on, you know, mules and horses, going up to people's RVs and campers and shaking them. And then of course with the dogman and werewolf stuff, if you search for it, you'll find that there's some like murder mysteries involved with the dogman legends and people getting slaughtered by them supposedly, and things like that. So I guess it would depend on the cryptid. There's even like with sea monsters, I believe there's one that I know of that was like a story where some kids got, I think they had like a shipwreck or something out at sea, and 2 of them didn't make it back. I could be wrong about the numbers and everything, but basically what happened was whoever made it back had told a story that a sea monster had attacked them and actually killed a couple of their friends. So you'll have stories like that. I've heard one story about a Bigfoot like actually like destroying someone's truck, and apparently they found him like bent up in his truck. I wasn't able to find any documentation about this. Like, once again, some of this stuff is just stories you'll hear. You know, I guess you could consider it could be like a campfire legend type story. But some of them could have some truth to them too. I mean, the Dogman murder mysteries, you can find some weird stuff like at Land Between the Lakes. Supposedly there was like there's like a campsite where like a family was supposedly attacked, and I think it's the North American Dogman Project has like recordings from the guy who had the confession about that he actually saw it happen. He was like a fish and wildlife worker who actually was in a boat and supposedly saw this happen to a family. And you know, apparently like it's all cover up type stuff that happens. You know, I don't know if that's, you know, once again, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but if it is true, then it is scary to think that something like that could be out there. Like with me going out alone at the spot that I go to, where people have actually had the werewolf sightings. So, you know, it's always on the back of my mind, like, what if I do run into something like that, something that like is not supposed to be real, that is very aggressive, and you know, who knows what it could be capable of. But I don't know. It's all part of the adventure, I guess. And I actually just got a new thermal device, so if I do see it coming, I'll be hopefully somewhat prepared. But I guess, you know, some people would say they are dangerous. Personally, I've never had any issues though.
Well, cryptids is a large grouping of undiscovered or unproven animals or creatures, and I think that they could be dangerous. because we're talking about different kinds of tigers that are cryptids or different kinds of hyenas. There's a North American hyena. Yes, that could be dangerous for sure. But, is Bigfoot dangerous? I haven't had an experience with Bigfoot where I felt like I was in danger, really. I felt like I've overstayed my welcome and it was time to leave. I felt that. And in my intuition, I did see an area that in which I saw a Bigfoot that seemed more like an aggressive male, that I felt like I shouldn't go into that area. So I think that there can be some, just like there are different kinds of people. There can be some good and bad in every grouping of creature. So I think that we can't say that they're all good and they're all bad. I think that there's probably some that could be territorial. I think that's possible, especially in areas where they're being encroached upon more and more. I think that I get kind of grabby about that too.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's going to come down to a lot of factors too, just like with any mammal, really. I mean, because if they're in season, then there's going to be kind of a little bit more of that type of frustration going on. And if it's like a territorial thing, that could definitely, increase a little bit of that too. So, I mean, I believe that we definitely have to kind of take into considering a wide range of variables when it comes to their behavior. I mean, I think we've started to kind of learn some of their behavior with the knocking, the vocalization, and certain things like that kind of indicate that they definitely do have that wider spectrum of behavior.
Absolutely. Now, one thing that's commonly reported in alongside of Bigfoot sightings are these balls of light, which I think is an interesting topic. Now, we don't know how they're connected or if they're connected, but they seem to be reported very often together, very, very close together or within short span of each other. And we ourselves had been researching an area where Bigfoot had been spotted walking in the daytime. And it was walking from one set of trees to a cluster of other set of trees in the middle of this marshy bog. And the landowner would not give us permission to go on the land because he said it was dangerous to walk out there. You could fall through the bog and drown and he'd never get out. So he wouldn't give permission to anybody to go back there. He said nobody should be back there ever. So we ended up using one of our night vision cameras that can see pretty far away. It's called a unocular device. And we went out there really late at night where there would be no traffic or anybody coming up on the road. So we just went out there at night with this unocular device so that we could kind of observe the area from a distance with night vision. And we're looking for Bigfoot because that's where Bigfoot had been spotted during the day walking. And instead, what did we find? We found some really strange lights coming out of the woods. And there was no road behind there. They couldn't have been car lights. It couldn't have been people. I mean, really weird moving lights that just suddenly appeared and then they were gone. I mean, very strange things happen sometimes when you're looking for Bigfoot. Things you're not looking for, you find, and how do you explain that? Just recently on the show Expedition Bigfoot on the Travel Channel, I think it was 2 episodes ago, they all of a sudden had these white lights appearing in the trees. And they can't explain them either. They have no idea what that was. They were in the middle of the woods. And multiple people saw it. They got it on camera. And I'm like, hey, that looks familiar. I've seen that. And we have video of that on our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is She Squatchers Official. And the video itself is called Strange Lights. You can go watch that there if you'd like. And these particular ones that we saw were white. On the TV show, they were white lights too. I've seen the green ones that look the same color as a green traffic light. I've seen those like skipping above the trees without actually touching the treetops. I've seen those. We've been followed by those in the woods at night. They stay kind of behind us and above the trees. And I've also seen the ones that look like fireballs.
Wow, that's awesome.
I know that we've already covered some of your experiences with Bigfoot and other cryptids, but is there one that just is your absolute favorite to tell?
So I guess I will tell. I'll tell the one just real quick. The one where what I saw. Because I've heard the wood knocks and I've had the vocalizations and the rock clacking and even like thinking I saw. Sometimes I will see things, but I can never be sure if what I saw. But I'll see like a big shadow move or something like that. But this specific time, I had done a night hike out through this like crazy like field in the Talladega National Forest. Like usually they cut this one field down, but it had like grown up really tall. So I like was like, okay, it's off trail, and I go through the field usually to get to this river, and then I follow the river in between these two ridges. And that's how I kind of navigate myself off trail, is by following things like creeks or rivers or ridges. So I had made my way in between the two ridges, and I found like this perfect circle. Like I had been walking through these tall weeds, freaking out, kind of like it was nighttime, and I was like, maybe this was a bad idea to come out at night and try to go through this tall grass. But I come across this perfect circle, so I set up camp, do some recordings that night, and just kind of listening. I did hear some screech owls and barred owls and just different sounds of the night, normal forest sounds. That morning I started hearing like what sounded like something tapping on the trees, but I couldn't tell if it was some type of bird or something else. And I woke up feeling kind of like weird. I had some weird dreams that night. Like I was dreaming about this strange abandoned house in the woods that had these like dolls and stuff in it. And then I had this dream about actually dogmen, aliens attacking the planet, and I was like doing battle with them and stuff. So I woke up feeling like really weird. And I remember I got out of the tent and I like stretched and I like looked up at the ridge, which I guess I would say it was about maybe 250 feet like up, away from me. And I see this thing like standing there, and like I said, I couldn't see its face, but I could tell that it was at least 6 or 7 feet tall, and it was like covered in like a reddish brown, like fur, fuzzy, like fur, like long fur. And I looked up at it, and like I was like, what is that? And I like was about to grab my camera, and it just took 2 steps and was just gone. And it was just like it like noticed that I saw it, just took a step, was disappeared into the brush. And at that point I just I packed everything up and started hiking, and I actually spent like the rest of the day going up and trying to get up on that ridge and going around and going down the other ridge and just seeing what happened. And I found some footprints, and I heard some movement and stuff, which could have been anything in the woods, but it was just a cool time in an area where people actually have other sightings as well. And it was actually not far from where I saw the blue fairies too. So a lot going on in that little national forest there. But that was like my little sighting of something that was tall and fuzzy and seemed intelligent the way it was watching me, and stepped back away once I looked up at it.
That's really, really cool. And the fact that it's in the same area as the Fae too, that's even cooler.
Yeah. And right near a old cemetery too, which you'll find like something about those old cemeteries and like sightings of even dogmen are said to hang out around cemeteries. And I don't know what it is about cemeteries, maybe because not a lot of people go to them, maybe they like those areas. I'm not sure, or maybe there's something else, something more spiritual or mystical about it. I'm not sure, but I noticed that areas around old cemeteries, like I always find some really cool stuff. Actually, in Virginia, near this old cemetery, I found this giant, like, perfect X in the woods behind it, and it was just like, I don't know, it just blew me away how big this X was. It was like a perfect, just massive X with 2 trees, and just things like that. That I don't know. That, like I said, the main spot I go here, I started going to the cemetery, and then next thing I know, I'm in the woods and finding all kinds of weird stuff. So I don't know what it is about the old cemeteries, but
maybe they like the consecrated ground type of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like magnetic feel or something to them. I don't know. That's interesting. I'd be very interested in looking into that some more.
For sure.
My favorite thing about looking for Bigfoot, my favorite thing is remote viewing. When I can remote view and look at satellite imagery and GPS coordinates and find a GPS coordinates of something, and then we go there and there's something there, that to me is exciting. That to me is really fun. And let's see, it was October of 2018. We were doing the Tennessee Bigfoot Conference, and we went out looking for Bigfoot with another Bigfoot researcher named Matthew Delph from the Mountain Empire Cryptid Researchers Organization. And during the day, the team went out with them, and he chose the location, and he wouldn't give me the GPS coordinates in advance. And I'm like, you don't understand. This is how I look for Bigfoot. I don't go somewhere unless I've looked at it first. So, it was really weird for me. But then once I had the GPS coordinates, because the team went there, then I could start looking. And so we had brought a group of people out there during the day, and we're not allowed to have them out there at night because of liability reasons. And it was on top of a mountain. They were afraid somebody might fall off a cliff. So once I had the GPS coordinates, I was able to start remote viewing the location. And I'm like, I'm seeing Bigfoot here. I'm seeing Bigfoot there. I'm seeing Bigfoot there. So we decided, my team and Matthew Delph decided that we were going to go back there after supper. We were going to go have supper and then go back up there by ourselves, the 4 of us, and see what we could find. So we get back up there. It's dark. Before I even get out of the car, now we've parked in a location where I remote viewed earlier and saw Bigfoot nearby. That's where we parked. I pull my phone out. I still have service. This is a bonus. So then I'm looking at the Google satellite imagery of where I'm at right now, and I can see myself as a blue dot on the map. And I said, are there any Bigfoot here right now? Show me what's here now. And I saw one 30 feet from the car. And I said, 30 feet that way. Now it's dark. Tammy grabs the thermal camera, our FLIR thermal imaging camera, points it that way, and sure enough, there's one sitting there. And it's doing something on the ground, working with something that's coming up as a body temperature, but no fur on it. And we have a setting on black hot, which means that bare skin is going to show up as gray or black, giving off a body temperature. But fur or hair comes up as stark white. So, Bigfoot totally stands out in the woods as something stark white. Mm-hmm. But here it was, you could see it's moving its arms, it's working with something on the ground that's this dark gray. So it didn't have fur on it. It was giving off a body temperature. And I think we got a total of 13 minutes of footage of that, and we uploaded 6 minutes to our YouTube channel under Tennessee Bigfoot Expedition on She Squatcher's official channel. So you can go check that out. You can see that thermal footage that we got. We uploaded about 6 minutes of footage of that Bigfoot that we were observing there, and we were literally 30 feet away from it. It was aware that we were looking at it, and it just seemed like none of us felt like we should go any closer. None of us felt like there was this mutual respect there. It's allowing us to see it. It's just continuing doing what it's doing. It's not scared of us. We're not approaching. We're just excited to get it on the video. But when I asked everyone afterwards, independently, why didn't you go closer? And the idea never even occurred to walk closer. Not to any of us. And the idea never even occurred to us. to go close to it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Which I think is interesting.
Yeah, I really enjoy that, that you guys, when you do go out into the field, you do have that, that respect, even if it's like kind of innate, which is what it kind of sounds like, is just like a instinctual understanding that this is where you have to be, to respect it. And I really enjoy that, because a lot of people, unfortunately, don't have that kind of thought process of that. They're just kind of after one thing, and it kind of consumes their brain a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know researchers that their whole motive, their whole idea is to run at it. If they see Bigfoot, they're going to run at it and try to touch it. And I'm like, okay, I hope you have it on film, because that'll be your Blair Witch film. Because if I see a grizzly bear in the woods, my instinct is not to run at it and try to touch it. And Bigfoot is bigger than a grizzly bear. And what is it supposed to think when you're running at it? What is it supposed to do?
Yeah, and it has to be ridiculously strong too, for being able to rip trees out of the ground and turn them upside down. Like, I can't do that.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to compete with this creature, so I wouldn't even try to run towards it.
Right.
All right, so my very last question for you is, what advice would you tell someone who is just starting out in the field?
So advice I would tell someone, definitely going on about the, remaining open-minded but skeptical, and to me, it's really important to get out there and have those experiences, like, having your own little expeditions and sightings, and your own theories, and your own, doing your own research, and finding what you resonate with, but also, of course, remaining open-minded, because there's so many possibilities. And just like, I like to have fun with it, I take it very serious, but at the same time, like, I like to go out, have fun, enjoy myself, and just see what happens, kind of go with the flow, because I enjoy being out in the woods, and that's one cool thing about investigating Bigfoot, because I'm like a big, I love hiking and camping, so I can, mix two of my favorite passions together, going out there. So sometimes I'll go out just to relax, and sometimes that's when the best things happen, like when the blue fairy lights came. I was just going out to camp and relax. So, like, some people will talk about being out in the field and stuff, and to me, that's just getting out in the woods. I mean, even if you just go for a hike, have your camera ready, and maybe you'll catch something. Unfortunately, that night when the fairies came, I didn't have a camera on me, and now I carry one everywhere. But at the same time, I care about having personal experiences a lot too. So even if I don't catch something on camera, I'm not going to be mad about it. That maybe that experience was just for you, or just for me. So try to enjoy that, and also it's important to not become so obsessed with something that you let it completely like take over your life and stuff. Because I have seen some people not like ruin their life or anything, but just some people get a little too deep into this stuff, and it can affect their personal life and stuff. So it's important to keep that line too. So I guess that's what I would tell someone new.
Get out there. Always get out there. Open your eyes, open your awareness. Don't decide what you think it is before you know. I always say carry a mystery bag with you. Make a mystery bag. They're invisible. I always collect information. And if I don't know how it fits into the greater puzzle of the big picture, I just put it in my mystery bag. I don't reject anything just because I don't understand how it might be true. Just because I don't understand it doesn't mean that it's not true. So I put it in my mystery bag, and I just carry it there of things that could be true. I just don't know if they are or not. And I just carry it there until someday that I might actually go, oh, hey, look at that. It fits in the puzzle right there. I see how that's true. So don't reject anything just because you don't understand it, or that it's too far out there for you to grasp or fathom that it could be possible to be something. The idea that Bigfoot can't be real because it's not discovered yet. I'm sorry, but we have tons of animals and new creatures that are discovered every single day on this planet. There are so many things that we have not yet discovered. And I truly believe that Bigfoot is one of them.
Alrighty. Do you have any questions or anything that you'd like to add before we go?
No, I mean, just thank you so much for having me on, and it was fun.
Yes, please come subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we've been challenged to a race on YouTube subscribers. So I'm asking everyone, please come subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can win this challenge. It's She Squatchers Official, and please come like our Facebook page as well.
Yes. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Thanks, you too. Good night.
Bye.
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 Thank you for joining my circle tonight. It was a pleasure to discuss this spooky topic with you, and a thank you to all my listeners for tuning in. And as always, dreadful dreams. Remember, my darlings, to always be kind to those around you, including our friends with claws, fangs, and fur. Hello, darling. Love the show and want to be more involved? All while showing your support? Have I got the perfect thing for you? Subscribe to my Patreon page today, and as a patron, you'll have the option to select which tier you are interested in, with exclusive patron-only offers from early access, live stream chats, shoutouts, distant readings, and so much more. If this has piqued your interest, please follow the link in the chat or go to patreon.com and search Cauldron Talk with Casey Colburn and become a patron today. Thank you for your support, darlings, and as always, dreadful dreams.